Hi guys, welcome back to the GoonerPod with myself and Adam. Just here to talk all things Arsenal. Ad, how we doing?
All good. And you?
Buzzing, mate, buzzing. Uh, I tell you what, when Arsenal are doing well, life is a whole lot better, isn't it? One less thing to worry
Much.
about.
I've been less stressed recently, and then I seen that we'd won the last six, and I thought, well, I got nothing to be stressed about because Arsenal are winning.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. It does make a difference. I don't care what anyone says. I hate it when people aren't into football and call you pathetic and things like that because you get
Mm,
like wound up or whatever. They don't understand, do they? But it certainly has
no,
an effect. It's like when your team don't win, it's like living in darkness, and you don't get your sunlight, things like
mm.
that. It just has a knock-on effect.
No.
So
I
all
mean,
good.
it definitely impacts my mood. I could be having the best day ever, and then they lose, or they don't turn up, and it's just disappointment after that. I think it's just part of being a fan, is it? Passion. So
It is, yeah. You're spot on, mate. You're spot on. I wanted to start off with a former Arsenal player who announced his retirement today, Mesut Ozil. I'll
yeah.
keep it brief because I don't have anything overly spectacular to say on it myself. But I don't know if you wanted to share your greatest memories of him and just generally what you thought. And
I mean,
yeah,
I still remember when we signed him. I think it was it deadline day. I think it was deadline day when we signed him.
yeah,
Uh, and everybody was going mad, and that was in a period where the club weren't really investing. It was just fringe players, wasn't it? It was just players to get us through, and we signed him. And I think him, Alexis, just them two playing together was just it was it's not anywhere near what it is now because obviously what the team are doing now, but in at the time it was peak, wasn't it? It was the peak of where Arsenal were, and watching him play in that team, he was just, he was brilliant. He was brilliant. I loved watching him play. Hitting the ball down and that bounce, the Ozil bounce, and
yeah,
his assists, his vision was just, he was incredible. Unfortunately, he didn't leave on the best terms. He wasn't putting in his best performances, but he's I was played for Real Madrid, played for us. I think he's prime top player. So, but I think from reading his statement, he's not anywhere near what he has been. I think he's doing what needs to be done. But he'll go down one as one of the best creative midfielders there is. But yeah, I mean, watching him back in the day, when he was playing for us, he was brilliant.
yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit torn on him. I think he gets too much credit. For some reason, I mean, so many of our fan bases think that our Arsenal as a club formed when we signed as Mesut Ozil. We had players like him,
No.
players that are better than him all my life,
Mm.
and further on. And I know he come at sort of the back end of a dark period where we didn't win for 8 or 9 years, and he lifted the FA Cup in his first season, and he had a big part to play in that. And I won't take that
Yeah.
away from him, but you know, we signed him a season after we let Fabregas go, and Fabregas was a far better
Yeah.
player for Arsenal than Ozil was. We signed him the year after we signed Cazorla, and I think if you ask any Arsenal fan, they'll tell you Cazorla was the better player at the end of it.
Yeah,
Sanchez
definitely.
come in the year after, and Sanchez was better for us than Ozil was. So I think he gets too much credit. He produced some wonderful moments,
Mm.
fantastic footballer, as you say. He had all the ability in the world without the application to go with it, and he never really won my heart because of that. He'd go missing away from home. He would uh, yeah, I just think we, as a fan base, we give him too much credit and wish him the best. He's earned fucking millions in his life. He ain't got no worries for the rest of his life. He'll have a very happy retirement at the age of 34. He's a year older than me. I didn't realise that. I thought he was a bit older, but a year older than me, and I've got 35 years of working ahead of me, and he's finished. So
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I just think our fan base has gone a little bit overboard with it. The way he left the club as well. I know it wasn't solely his fault, but there's a bloody good reason why we ditched him the way we did and
He
kicked him out
just
of the
become too
squad and things
lazy.
like.
At the
exactly.
end, he just became too lazy.
He
But
was
I loved watching him. But
stealing
you
a
know,
living at the end of his time at Arsenal.
mm,
Barely played for the last 2 years of his contract and earned £36 million doing it. So he gets no sympathy from me.
so after the bumper contract, it's similar with Aubameyang, wasn't it? It tends to be that the players get a bumper contract and then they just stop performing. They're happy to. I think the manager played a part in it as well, but it's a bit of a grey area with us, isn't it? You give them the contract and they stay, and you're glad that they stay in a period when loads of players are leaving. But then after that, it's like, well, he's been paid top money and he's not playing. We were expecting him to play. So yeah, it was not a great ending for him, really.
No, it wasn't, and it's a shame because, like you say, if he had a spell where, especially when Sanchez joined, the pair of them were probably for 2 years the dynamic duo of the league. Even though we wasn't competing for the league, they were feared. They were,
Yeah,
so like a bit like what Kane and Son were last year.
mm.
But I don't know, he just down to, I don't know if it's because Sanchez left and he just felt like it was a bit of a lost cause at Arsenal. I don't know why, but he got that contract when Sanchez left and he down tools. And he was never the same, was he? He didn't seem to want to work, and Emery fell out with him early doors, and then Arteta fell out with him, and it was obvious the issue was him.
Yeah. No, I think it was
either,
that we needed a player to track back, didn't we, and be more defensive. And I think he didn't have it. And I think the excuse for most of the fan base was that, oh well, he's never played in that role. But then you look at the team we've got now, and we've got Trossard playing as a number 9. You've got Zinchenko playing wherever he can. I'm pretty sure I saw Gabriel playing on our big Gabby playing as a winger against Palace. So if you want it enough, you'll do it. You'll adapt, and I think he did just become lazy. Unfortunately, I think his easy way was, well, this is what I do, and that that's what I'm going to stick to. And I think that's what it's all about, attitude, isn't it? It's all about application. So
yeah, definitely. It's a shame, but I mean, even Wenger started dropping him towards the end, away from home, which says its own story, really. Yeah, but enough about him. Obviously, he's retired today, but it's been a big story for the club because every time I've looked on Instagram, I'm used to seeing girls in their bikinis on my Instagram, and all I've seen is photos of Mesut Ozil all day. So I thought I'd better bring it up.
Well, give it a few days, and I'll see the girls back in the bikinis.
Yeah, I'm having a rest. I'm off Insta now for 2 or 3 days. It's pissed me off today. Not got my usual fix. Right. Speaking of past endeavours, it's been a couple of days now since we played Crystal Palace.
Yep.
A thoroughly commanding performance, I thought. Barring the early scare where the ball bounced off the post and hit Ramsdale, I had flashbacks of Emi Martinez against Villa, but fortunately it went wide for us. And we gained control of the game after that moment. I think it was probably an early scare that just woke us up a little bit. Thoroughly commanding, I thought. Thoroughly commanding. Yeah. I thought Palace had a 5-minute spell where they scored and then should have scored just after in the second half. Apart from that, the boys were superb.
No, I think we were brilliant. I think sometimes people look at the opponent's name too much rather than the way that they play. And Palace are a good team. I don't care what anybody says. For me, I think Vieira's overachieved with them. To be honest, I think they're a good team. I think he's beat a few of the top 6, hasn't he? And obviously he got sacked. And the first thing I thought when he got sacked is, oh, is it going to be a Burnley? Not a Burnley, Everton with Deutsch. Are we gonna, they're gonna have that new manager or no manager bounce and give us a problem? And like you say, I think that hit in the post in the in the opening minutes of the game, I think it gave us the wake up that we needed because we were dominating still, but it was that I think it was a bit of a warning of, okay, you can't just expect to dominate, and they're not going to come back, because if you give them a chance, they'll take it. And I think we're very lucky that he didn't bounce off Ramsdale and go in. But I think he made some brilliant saves. His reaction when we did concede, it said it all. He wanted that clean sheet. We were running away with the game, played some really good football. But I think it was dominant. It was a dominant performance. We played well. You know, it's always good to see a few goals instead of just like one here and there. So we were comfortable. We were comfortable and played some really really good football between them. And at times, Palace were defending like really deep. There was multiple players behind the ball, and well in front of the keeper, and we were. You could see us trying to break it down. But one thing I noticed, and I don't know if you noticed the same, was that usually not usually, but in the last like 3 or 4 games, when we've got into the final third, the team have just slowed down a little bit. It's like they built it up to get into the final third, and then they kind of stall, and it's like, right, what do we do next when the box is overloaded? But what they did in the match against Palace was, instead of going back to Zinchenko and then going back across the way, they were just whipping balls in. They were just having a go, and like I said, Gabby was playing as a winger at one point. He'd obviously stayed up from the corner, and even he was having a go to whip it in. I think Ben White was absolutely brilliant. Saka was brilliant. Martinelli showed his mentality coming back from the penalty, and that's one thing that was a little bit of a bit of a unknown. Really, is like how's he gonna come back from it? And he's come back from it. He's obviously got his goal, scored the first goal of the game, and after that, it was just like, for me, it was total control. Obviously, they conceded from the corner, but if you actually look before the corner, we conceded from the corner, sorry. But if you look at the reaction of Ben White and Xhaka when that corner was conceded, I think Ben White had run into Xhaka, and then obviously the ball had gone out, but they'd prevented, a cross, so they were, like, showing like respect to each other, and tapping hands just before going back to defend. And so that's the fight you want to see. At like, I think it was 3-0 at that point. That's the fight that you want to see. See like a real togetherness in the team. I think it's a really good performance from us, both like attacking and defensive. And I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was important to have a decent performance after the Sporting game. Although obviously being knocked out was disappointing. We've said on previous pods and in conversations with each other that neither of us are going to be that bothered if we go out. We're not going to lose any sleep over it. We'd much rather focus on the league. But the thing that annoyed me more than anything against Sporting was the performance was trash as well. We didn't just lose and unlucky on the night. We deserved to go out, and that was what I thought to myself. Oh, bloody hell! But they responded perfectly with a decent performance. I know Palace has struggled, but no one's really given them a hiding in that run that they've had. I mean, they lost 4-0 to Tottenham. They just fell apart. But you're having a bad day conceding 4 to Spurs. So you dust yourself. But they haven't. They've drawn with United. They was unlucky to lose to United a couple of weeks ago. They shouldn't really have lost to City. They drew with Liverpool at home. They've been beaten narrowly by Brighton. They drew with Newcastle. They've not been tonked in that run. And for Vieira to lose his job on the back of those fixtures, I think it was 6 defeats, 6 draws in that run. But against basically the top 8. I think Chelsea were thrown in. I think they drew with Chelsea as well, or they lost narrowly to Chelsea, Stamford Bridge. It was scandalous, really. I know they've hit the panic button, haven't they? And part of me actually I want them to go down now because of it.
Yeah, I mean, he should have been given, the next few games. I think the games that have got coming up are teams that you'd expect with the, like you said, the performance. They shouldn't have lost against City, in my opinion. I think if they'd have had a bit more up front, if it had been another team getting the same opportunities that Palace had, say even like a team like Newcastle, Brighton, City could have lost that game 3-0, 3-4-0 because there would have been
Yeah.
somebody there to take the chances. And I don't think they played bad at all. I think they played quite well. And then, people who watch football know that Palace away isn't an easy game at all. And I don't think they're an easy team to play against. I think they're quite an organised team, and with what with the pace that they've got up front and the experience that they've got, they will. If you give them a chance, they will take you. Which is why we were so lucky that goal early on actually didn't go in, because it'd have been a completely different game altogether. You're then on the back foot, because if we're at home, obviously we can come back, but I think it should. I think he should have been given time, and I do think in previous games he's beat Vieira's beaten the top six. He was. I think he's overachieved with them. In my opinion, I think he's overachieved with what he's got. But the fans when we obviously scored, I think it was like 2-0. They were obviously singing Vieira in favour of him, and I don't know. It just seems a bit odd for me with them sacking him now. There's still like plenty of games to go against teams that you fully expect them with him as manager to go on and actually stay up to fight that's the fight, like to fight for survival. But changing a manager now, changing tactics, potentially upsetting the players and the rhythm that they've got between them, it could actually send them down, like you say. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's a bit strange that they've done it when there's still plenty to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could have. I don't want to dwell on it too long, but it could have given him a couple of fixtures after our game. I think they got Leicester and maybe Leeds or something like that. Teams that are around her anyway. Their next 6 or 7 games are all teams beneath them.
Yeah,
and if you're a couple of games into that run and you still haven't picked up 3 points, then you think, right, okay, we have to do this. We have to make a change. But you'd earned that right to not have the panic button hit so early. And it's not like they're cut adrift. They're sitting in 12. It's not like they're adrift of everybody above them or anything like that. And they've like, well, we need to make a change. We need to get points on the board now. They've got time on their side to turn it around. And they weren't playing poorly in these games. And a bit of luck here and there, and they would have picked up a couple of wins in that run.
Yeah.
Oh, but, and moving on from one Vieira to the other, I can't remember if you said you caught the Sporting game at home or not.
No, I watched the highlights afterwards, but I didn't get to see the game. I was flying back.
Yeah, Fabio Vieira's performance in that game really, really worried me. Do you see him making it at Arsenal?
I see glimpses. Of a good player, and I don't know if it's that he's just obviously being out of every cup that there is apart from the Premier League. He's not really going to get a chance now until next season. But I think I do see a player there. There's something about him. Like I watched him in some of our games, and he's he plays some really good passes. He reminds me a little bit of Lokonga, the same kind of thing with him. Like I see a player there, but it's only glimpses. There's no consistency. He can score. He's shown that he can score, and he seems like a confident lad. But I don't know. I kind of feel with Lokonga, obviously he's at Palace anyway, and with Vieira that they need to go out on loan. They need to go out on loan and get the experience, and then come back as a more complete player with the minutes. But I've seen like too much inconsistency with him, because I can watch him one time and I can think, he's been brilliant. What a player! I can see why we've got him, and then I watch him other times and I think, it's not like even just simple passes. It's not making a simple pass, or it's not completing a simple pass, or it's not really positioned, where you'd expect him to be. But he's still a young lad, so I do and I don't. I think if we can go out on loan and we can actually give him the minutes that he needs, and obviously he can develop, he can get the experience and be more consistent. But you also need to be able to do the basics and do that consistently as well. So it's a bit like Lukonga with me. It just, and I guess it's down to him. Like, is he going to fight for it? Is he going to put enough in to make sure that he is, the level of Saka and Martinelli? Because we say, oh, he's young, but so are those guys, but they're doing it consistently. So I think, I don't know, there's multiple factors, but I'm not fully convinced. I don't think glimpses is enough for a club of our level. So yeah, it's a bit of a 50-50.
I think players that come from leagues such as Portugal and Belgium, like the Congo, and the lesser European leagues, Holland. No, we don't sign much from Holland, but United have. Generally, they need a year of adaptation.
Yeah.
Now, people are saying, they shouldn't. They get 50 grand a week, blah, blah, blah. You do. You move into, if I move to Portugal tomorrow to do the same job, it would take me ages to settle into a new way of life. You've got to learn a language. You've got to. It's everything, isn't it? It's not just about football. It's about finding your way to the shops, silly things like that. But it's a completely different life. So you need some adapt quicker than others. If they've already mastered the language, things like that. And we've had players that have come here from abroad and just settled in straight away. Gabriel being an example of it. He wasn't.
Yeah.
From what I hear, particularly impressive at Lille, but he signed him and he's not put a foot wrong for Arsenal because he's just come in and fitted in. Yeah, so he came in. There's cases of it, and Vieira's not one of them. So I'll judge him properly next year. But I just worry that we're at the business end of the season, and there's someone there that I don't think that the boss trusts him to chuck him in if he needed to. Say Odegaard tweaked a hamstring, needs missed 2 games.
Yeah, it's a completely different level, though, isn't it? It's a massive drop off in quality. Yeah. That's the truth. A massive drop off in quality. But he came on against Villa and he created that assist for Martinelli, and it was a good assist. Obviously, I know there was he had 2 players around him, but he could have panicked. He could have played overhit it. He could have even gone for himself, but he passed it through. He was. I do see glimpses, and that's the thing. I do see glimpses with him, but then it's like I say, just even the base. It's like I've seen him pass the ball, and it's not been. The player's been very short distance and he's giving it to the opposition, or he's there to try and win the ball back, and he's it's either miles away or the player just goes straight past him. But like I say, it's experience, and if you look how much experience he's actually had, he's not really had that much because we've come out of everything pretty early on. Every cup pretty early on, and I think the Europa's probably the only thing that he would have had from now until the end of the season. But I don't see him playing in the Premier League, but I could definitely see him playing in the cup games and being good enough to play in the cup games with consistency. But like you say, if anything happens to Odegaard, I'd panic anyway, because I don't think he's a player that you can get anybody say quality. Is it's a unique player, but if I saw him in the lineup over Odegaard, I probably would, especially in the league with what we've got left to go. But I do like him. Same with Lukonga. I do see a player there. It's just I guess only time will tell with him.
Yeah, and as I say, I'll judge him probably next season, but he's not had the best of starts, has he?
It's just a level, and obviously it's only got higher now that we're where we are in the league. It's you've got to be the best, at all times. So that's the level, and some will make it and some won't. So it depends on them really. He's in control of his his own destiny, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with the theme of sporting Thursday night. The Europa League exit was a little bit of a surprise. I honestly didn't expect us to go out on the night. I think once we drew away and took the game back to the Emirates, I thought we'd get the job done. Arteta made 6 or 7 changes, I think, which included the right back, a full change in midfield, I believe it was, and a couple of changes up front. I was quite surprised to see Saliba and Gabriel start. And I was surprised to see Ramsdale start over Turner and Zinchenko to keep his place as well. So I suppose no one can really accuse Arteta of not taking it seriously. But I just wonder if there was a sort of do what you can, boys message, but if we go out, don't really give a shit sort of attitude in the changing room. And I know people are saying, "Oh, that never happens," but I can guarantee you it does.
Yeah,
Arsenal didn't need that. We don't need that distraction. We don't. Europa League's, a fantastic competition to be in and try and win if you're sitting 6th in the Premier League and nowhere near the top 4 like we've been for the last 4 or 5 years. Well, Man United last year when they tried to win it, or the year before, whenever it was, they lost to Villarreal and they needed to win it to get back in the Champions League. It's that competition. When you're going for the Premier League title, it doesn't mean anything. It means something to Man U this year because they're sitting in 3rd, and although they're apparently in the title race, they're 16 points off of us. They'll go for that trophy because their position is secure. They can rotate a little bit and go for the Europa League. It wasn't our race to run. And I just wonder if that message was given to the boys, Go out there. Because I didn't see our intensity from normal. But against Palace, 2 days later, they were all at it again. It can't be a coincidence. It's the same last week. We were poor in Sporting, in Lisbon, sorry. We were poor out there. Come back 2 days later, away from home at Fulham, who have been very good this season, and showed that again at Old Trafford at the weekend. And absolutely wiped the floor of them.
Yeah,
I just think Europa League was clearly second option.
Yeah, I think the priority's there for not only the fans but for the for the players. That's why you've made all this progress. It's not just luck at this point because you can't play 27 games and only lose 3 of them, and be at this point 8 ahead of Man City having already played them. Obviously, I know we're going to play them again, but having already played 1 game against them, at this point, it's not just luck. It's not just that. This can really happen, and I don't know if, like you say, when we played Chelsea in Baku, like 3 years ago, was it 3-4 years ago? It was important that we won that game because obviously it was Champions League. It was that place. But now it's like regardless of what happens if we finish 1st or 2nd, I don't expect us to finish any lower than 2nd. We've already secured what our target was. Let's be honest, our target was Champions League football when we kick this season off. You can't, in my opinion, it would be an absolute disaster if he'd have put a full team out there at home on Thursday, and then on the next game we go and drop points in the league because we're not guaranteed to actually get to the final of the Europa anyway. We're not guaranteed to actually win that trophy. It's maybe, I think we'd have had Juventus next, and then potentially it could have been United in the final, depending how things worked out.
But United in the semis is the path that was done.
The semis was it? Okay, so but at some point we'd have had to play them, which obviously would have been a big game. It'd been a full team, and then if you look at the April fixtures, we've got City and then Chelsea 3 days apart. If we've got other fixtures floating round, we've already obviously lost Saliba at the minute. We've lost, and luckily we've been fine without him. But it's just, for me, it must have been. I don't care what Odegaard was saying that they wanted to do something special. I don't care what anybody says. Those players are going and want the Premier League, and they're showing that by the way that they're playing in the Premier League.
Yeah,
because otherwise they'd have got it done. They'd have got it done the Thursday before. I know we had to obviously fight back for that one, but yeah, I think if Arteta had have really wanted it as much as he said, as much as people were saying, he'd have played the stronger team, and if that come at a cost of the Premier League, it would have been an absolute disaster. And I think the fans would be rightfully in uproar about it.
No, I mean, like I say, I'm not going to cry about it. It's done, and we move on. I'd rather just be playing the 10 games that we've got in 10 weeks or whatever it is, once a week.
No distraction as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you compare that.
I know they've
got good squad there, better than ours. But Man City have got. I expect them to beat Bayern over 2 legs. Obviously, they got a semi-final against Sheffield United. Is it they got? I think, which they'll win that.
Yeah,
and then they're in the final. They are going to be playing weekend midweek until the end of the season. They're going into games of uncertainty.
I think they're going to lose. I think we're going to win the league. I think we're going to win the league, and I think we're going to win the league because they're going to drop points against the teams that are going to be fighting for survival because they've got them coming up. And because of the amount of fixtures that they're going to be playing, there's absolutely no way between now and the end of the season that they're going to have all of their players fit and fully charged with those amount of games, even with rotation. I can see them dropping points in the league because they're going to focus on the Champions League. I don't know if you watched Haaland's interview the other day after he scored 5 against, I can't remember what team it was now.
Leipzig.
I think it was a champion. I think it was a Champions League game. It would have been. It would have been.
It was Leipzig.
And he scored 5 goals, and he had that interview with I think it was with Thierry Henry. I think Jamie Carragher was there as well, and he was asked a question about him being bought in and playing, and he said, don't quote me on this, but he said something along the lines of he couldn't answer the question because he doesn't want to give him a headline, and then he said the club's won the Premier League in X amount of times already. They bought him in not to win the Premier League. So for me, from his own mouth, because I mean, you've seen Haaland's interviews, he's absolutely batshit. But for me, I think the priority is to win the Champions League. I think that's the thing that they want the most. It's the thing that they've not won. I mean, same as us, obviously, we've not won it, but I think that's why I think they're going to focus more on that. If it comes to playing a weaker team in the Premier League at the at the cost of going to the next stage in the Champions League, I think they'd risk the points in the league. If they can get both, obviously they'll go for both. But I think if push comes to shove, then Pep will have to make a decision between the league or the Champions League. I think he'd choose the Champions League. I've just got that. That's just how I feel. That's how I felt about this season since I've been watching from early on, and I said it early on in our first few pods that City don't look the same anymore. They don't, especially in the league. They just don't look at it. They just don't look, just don't look bothered. They're a bit like Liverpool. Liverpool look completely different as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's I just think I'm sure they are bothered, but there's just although they've signed an absolute monster and got in front of goal, the actual general ability of their squad has come down. They sold Sterling, they sold Zinchenko, they sold
Gabi.
Jesus, they sold or didn't sell him, but Fernandinho left. They've loaned out Cancelo.
That for me is that still doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they brought in obviously Haaland, terrific player, or terrific goal scorer. He's a boring player, but terrific goal scorer. Alvarez looks really good, but don't get any minutes because Haaland's hogging the place in the team. Calvin Phillips is an absolute joke signing. Wouldn't get into most of the bottom sides of the Premier League. He's a poor footballer. I'm fed up with him about how wonderful he is. Yeah, it's obviously Rodri plays every week anyway, so you would expect Calvin Phillips to not play. But when he does, he looks atrocious. They've rotated De Bruyne this year for some reason. And I don't think he's had injuries or anything. I just think he finds himself on the bench a lot. It's crazy. They're not dynamic.
Again, that doesn't make sense
out wide
for me.
No, there is just a general drop-off in their ability, and they don't have the squad depth that everyone thinks they do. Where's the cover for fullback? They play centre backs there.
Yeah,
That aren't fullbacks, so they might be able to play there for a game or two. If you had to play John Stones for 15 games at right back, he wouldn't be able to do what Ben White's doing, for example.
No.
They have looked better recently since Diaz got fit. He certainly makes a difference to their team, and their form is good, which would be. But then so is ours now. It was one of the things I wanted to bring up was our form since the City defeat is 6 wins on the bounce in the league. And we've had to use the squad a little bit. We've had some injuries, despite Eric Ten Hag's bizarre claim that we haven't. Partey's missed a few. Jesus has only just come back. He'd missed a lot of that run. Nketiah has now been out for what seems a few weeks.
Yeah. Obviously, had Smith Rowe has been out as well.
Smith Rowe's not kicked the ball. So we've had to use the squad in the last 2 months, and I know we played a game more, but we've actually increased our advantage since Christmas, which just goes to show you've already said it's not luck; it is based on ability. We're here to stay. I think people have finally accepted that we're fully in the title charge. Yeah. Even people like Gary Neville might have to acknowledge that Arsenal might do it.
Yeah. Well, I think I was watching a video the other day, TalkSport video, of Jamie O'Hara, and I can't remember the other fellow. I think he's a Chelsea fan. I can't remember his name. And he was like, he was saying, "No, come on, Jamie, you've got to admit it. Arsenal are going to win the league." He's like, "You've got to accept it now, and it'll hurt less, And this was before we even played Fulham, I think. He's like, you've got to accept it now. It's going to hurt less." And he's like, "No, I can't say it." And Jamie O'Hara was like, he was really close to accepting it. And I think, like you say, Gary Neville's come out and he said, "Oh, I think United are going to finish second." He thought they were in the title race. It's just bias. As soon as we beat them, it was over, and obviously the gap just got bigger and bigger. They're having a good run of form, and that's it. They're going to drop more points. I think they'll be between third and fourth. But I think there's only 2 teams in this title race, and that's us and City, to be honest.
I think since we lost to City, which was middle of February, our form has been in the league 100% perfect. Form team in the league. Again, we're top of the form guide again. What's impressed me, and I still think this might be crucial in the seasons, if we've been banging in goals. The goal difference has shot up. Now we're only 2 behind City, I believe.
2,
although I know
2.
They've got an extra game, and I forget who that's against. It's West Ham, because they were meant to play West Ham.
West Ham,
which worries me. I mean, West Ham could concede a hatful, or they could do the West Ham thing and turn up and win 1-0.
I mean, where they are in the league, by the time they play him, it could be a really crucial game. It could actually be.
Yeah.
It could actually be one of those games where they turn up.
West Ham will also in Europe themselves, which I'm sure they'll be looking to win. But anyway, that's a different conversation. The goal difference has been closed down, so there's no longer that worry of, if you've got a superior goal difference of 5 or more over a team, you'd acknowledge that's worth a point in the league standards. If you're neck and neck or 1 or 2 behind, then all of a sudden that erases that advantage.
Yeah.
So I credit Arsenal, barring the Leicester game where we should have had 4 or 5 on the day. We've scored minimum of 3 in those fixtures: Villa, Everton, Fulham, Palace. I forget who the other one was, but the run's been good, and I fully expect that to carry on going into the Leeds match. Although Leeds look a bit more resolute under Gracia, but we're at home.
Yeah.
We should.
It's that advantage, isn't it? Home advantage.
Yeah, there's not too many of our squad that have gone away on international duty. So, and I noticed that I've got no interest in it at all. I won't be watching, but the fixtures have changed a little bit, and I think most of the international teams would have played their games by Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that's especially the European ones. It's enough time for them to get home at a reasonable time, and they'll reintegrate back in with the squad for training. There's no arriving home late on a Thursday or Friday morning before you're due to play at the weekend. So yeah, they've seemed to have moved the schedule a little bit in recent times. So that works in our favour as well. Just I hate going into this period. I never understand the mid-March international break. It's at the worst possible time for every club that's going into the latter stages of European competition or relegation fights, title fights, fighting for European spots, whatever you want to. Everyone's fighting for something, more or less. Yeah, in the league this year, barring a group of teams. Probably Aston Villa, the only team that are not playing for anything, and maybe Chelsea. 9th upwards can get into Europe. 12th downwards can get into the relegation scrap. So you've got the title race going on. There's 3 or 4 teams involved in top 4. Why? I don't get it. Why is the league stopped for an international? I know it's every season, but I never understand why this international break is not
it's such a crucial part as well, isn't it?
Just let the crucial part of the season. Yeah, just let the domestic leagues play out, and then put the international break at the fucking end of the season.
Yeah,
in the end of May, because there's internationals in June anyway, I believe. Just have it all in one block. Yeah, just have it in one block. Play 4 or 5 games together as a national side, rather than splitting it up all the time. They've got to look to change it, surely, because it's pony. And I'm sitting here probably alongside you and every other Arsenal fan thinking, oh, fuck, I hope Thomas Partey don't get injured playing for Ghana.
Let's for England.
Yeah, let's face it, they're the 2 we're most worried about, because one, Saka gets kicked around for fun, and 2, Partey is susceptible to getting an injury, isn't he? And even Tierney, you're going away with Scotland, you think, last season he broke down.
He got injured, didn't he? Yeah.
So,
and we've had it for years, haven't we? Wilshere used to go out on thingy, and he used to come back injured, and then we wouldn't see him. Especially as Arsenal fans, this international break it's where we've lost so many of our players. It's such an important part of the season, and this season it's just that much more important. So I hope I hope Saka's not playing, to be honest. I hope he puts somebody else on.
Well, do you know what? He will, because I think Rashford's pulled out. So I don't know if they'll replace Rashford in the squad, but Saka, you would have thought, would be first choice anyway.
Italy as well, isn't it, that they're playing? Italy, so that's going to be quite a feisty game.
Italy and Ukraine.
Obviously, Zinchenko as well.
Yeah.
So
I'd hope that Gareth's. I mean, I'm about to say something stupid here, but I'd hope that he's sensible.
I think there's no chance of that.
I mean, I'm laughing at myself for thinking it, but I don't want to see Saka playing 90 minutes. Not that I'd watch it anyway, but I don't want to find out that he's played 90 minutes.
No, I think
and gets injured or whatever.
Really. It's a hard. Two of the games anyway against I think it's like North Macedonia, one of them. I don't know. I'm going to one of them, to be honest. Because my mate wants to go to Old Trafford, so I'm going to one of them on the 19th of June. But I can't remember which team it is. But they're not, they're not teams that you'd expect typical England to lose to. So I don't want to see him playing until June, to be honest. But this is Southgate we're talking about. He's took Maguire, so anything's possible.
It's fairly obvious now, isn't it, that there was a fallout with Ben White?
Yeah,
and that's why he left the World Cup.
I'm not too bothered, because at least he's back at home and he's safe from injury. Ramsdale obviously Ramsdale won't play because he loves Pickford, doesn't he? So that's more good news. It's just Saka, because like you say, he's kicked from pillar to post, and I don't want to lose him at this part of the season. I mean, I know we've got Reece, but Saka's just he's another one. He's another level. So, to be fair, I don't even think I'll watch him, because I just don't want to know.
No, I won't watch it because I've got no interest in it. It's too invested in club football now for me to ever get the bug back for internationals. The only time I used to enjoy international tournaments was to go down the pub and get pissed. It was all I used to do with them. I'd never been fussed. I can't switch off from hating people like Harry Kane to then cheering him on. I can't do it. It's probably a failing of mine. It shows an immaturity on my part, but I can't do it.
I'm exactly the same. I'm going to Wembley on Friday with my mate, and obviously Lauren and he's my mate's other half, and we're going to Wembley, and he's like, "Oh, we'll have to go to dugout. I'll get you a Kane shirt," and it's just. I hate him. When I went to the Germany game, it was 3-3. Obviously, we all went down again, and Kane scored the penalty, and I didn't celebrate. I don't celebrate when he scores. And Lawrence always like, if it was the World Cup final and he scored in the last minute, would you celebrate? No, I wouldn't, because I don't like him, and that's what's difficult. Like you say, you've got your passion, you've got your love for your club, and when you see a player that you hate just naturally, like, week to week, because that's what I feel about him. I do not like him. To then see him in an England shirt, it's like, okay, I'll support England because I'm English, and it's my country team. But it was the same with Rooney. I absolutely hated Rooney, obviously because of the rivalry with United. And it's like I just couldn't. I know you'll understand. You know what I mean. But you can't have the same level of passion.
No, definitely not. And I'm not even ashamed to say it, mate. I don't care. I don't care what anyone thinks of me. Anyone in this pod can comment on the platform we post it on or whatever. I do not care. I have no.
I think a lot of them will actually agree with us.
Yeah, and one thing I will bring up is, when you watch England games and you see the fans and they bring the big flags and that, and they've always got Kidderminster on or Bradford or something like that, because they follow those level of teams. The fans, they don't have the animosity towards the players like we do, because they're not involved with it day to day. And I'm envious of it, but then I'm not, because then you get the shit football the rest of the year round. But I'd love to be able to switch off and get right into it, but I just don't care. I didn't watch any of the England games in the World Cup with any interest at all, really. I can't even remember watching all of them. Don't know if I did or not. That's how into it I am. I never watch any of the international breaks.
I watched the World Cup, but I didn't bother with the Euros, but we were absolutely diabolical in the Euros anyway. Yeah. So it's just, I do go down to Wembley and I do watch. I do watch for the, it's just usually like the, the qualifiers or the friendlies, and it's just something to obviously tick over, and it's the only game I actually go to with my brother-in-law and his cousin that we're not arguing over who's going to win. We're all we all want the same team to win. So it's the only time that there's that kind of like togetherness between us, really. But yeah, it's just I don't have anywhere near the same passion for any other team that I do for Arsenal. It's just with Arsenal, it's I know you know exactly what I'm on about. It's just a completely different. Where you saw, didn't you, when I thought Eddie had scored, it was grab you and start shaking you, So but yeah, it's just there's nothing. I definitely don't react the same. But when England score, just stand up and clap, and that's it. But when it's Arsenal, it's like it's a completely different reaction, because it's just that relief. That it's got the emotion.
So in conclusion, we agree that the international break is fucking shit.
Yes,
basically.
Yeah. It's just for me, it's pointless. Absolutely pointless, especially at this time of the season. Like I say, do it after, do it like they do with the World Cup. Do it between the season when there's no football and everybody's dying for a little bit of football because there's none on, and you get more interest, really, and everybody's excited. Well, usually if their team's won something. But at this point, it's just like, well, I just think it's ridiculous. So if we end up losing Saka, I'm going to find Southgate, and they'll know from this pod that I've done it. But honestly, we'll be having words.
But despite our personal feelings towards it, do you think the international break is come at a good or bad time for Arsenal to sort of regroup, refocus, give some of the
No,
players a freshen up?
no, I think it's come at a bad time because it was the same with the last break that we had. Is we're at a good and everybody said they're gonna fall apart after the international break. It didn't happen, and then it was they're gonna fall apart after they played Man City, and it didn't happen. And it's always all the next 5 games, And I think with obviously the results that we've just had, I think it's a stupid time because let's just get on with it. Let's just get on with it and keep the team together, keep that spirit there, and let's go for it. Because obviously, if you look at Saka in particular and Ramsdale, they're going to play with Walker, Foden, all players that they should, in my opinion, they should be staying well away from because it's all the mind games, isn't it? It's the I think last time they went on the international break, Walker said to Saka, when are you going to stop winning? It's like just leave club football and international football until one's finished because I don't know. Maybe I'm clutching at straws, but I don't know. I just feel like at this point in the season, it's so important to just keep focused on the league, just focus on what you need to win with your club, and then go and do what you need to do in June with your country, and then come back to your club and focus on what you need to do with your club. I think, yeah, that's why I stand on it. I think it's a really ridiculous time at the point of the season it is.
Yeah, I agree. I do and I don't. I think some players need a little bit of a refocus, but the players that you worry about are the ones that have gone away. So you could have done with them not going. It's catch-22 really. Some of them need
all the best players go, don't they? And it's the other players that are usually like fringe players or aren't good enough to get into the really.
The Saliba situation with his back injury, for example, the international break is coming at a good time for that because he can have 2 weeks of not playing, and I firmly believe that he'll play against Leeds. I don't think it's a serious enough injury that you're going to have to worry about him being out for a period of time.
No, I think it's a matter of weeks.
Yeah, we could well have had 2 or 3 games in that period that he would have missed. So
yeah, that's true.
People like Gabriel, Jesus is going to have another 2 weeks of full training now, ready for the Leeds game because he's not gone with Brazil. So Martinelli's going to have a rest because he's played a lot of football. Gabriel at the back has played every Premier League game and he's featured in every match this season. I think if he's not started in Europa League, he's come on. So there's lots of that. I think people like Raw Waters, who's going to have to come into the squad as the backup to Ben White, will have 2 weeks of training with the first team.
Yeah. No, I think it's very 50-50, isn't it, in that sense?
Yeah, I think it stops our momentum, but then you could say that of other clubs as well. Man City might not come back all firing, and they've got to play the early game against Liverpool, I believe.
Liverpool,
and Liverpool are going to have players coming back that are going to be getting fit over this period for that game as well. So
Haaland's not gone. He's gone back, hasn't he? Because apparently he's got a groin injury, but I don't. I think that's a tactical injury. I don't think that's.
I would agree with that if Norway were playing friendlies, but they're not. So,
do you think it's a genuine injury then?
Well, I've heard he could be out for 9 games.
Bloody hell! I mean, I know we didn't have a great injury record, previously, and that was something that was mentioned when other clubs were looking to sign him, and when City signed him and saying, is he going to make it through the season? And I think that's why Pep's been taking him off. I don't think it's got anything to do with Messi's record. I think he's been taking him off because the game's done and dusted, and he wants to keep him fit. He wants to avoid any injuries. But then if he's out for up to 9 games, it was the same with Gabby, if you remember, because he got injured and we knew he was injured. And they put out that he was injured, but they didn't want to give. And never at all did they give any timescales, did they, until they announced that he'd had the operation. He was going to be out for an extended period, but didn't actually put a number of games on it. So I wonder if this isn't a tactical injury, if this isn't, him just trying to be fit for the Liverpool game and focusing on club football, then are they actually going to say how many games he's out for? Are they going to be kind of quite sly with, oh, he's just injured and not really give anything away? Because if he's not playing against Liverpool, and like you say, Liverpool are getting these players back, Liverpool turn up against the big teams. I don't care how rubbish Liverpool have been this season. They did it against Manchester United. They did it against City at Anfield when they weren't playing too great. They'll turn up, and I think with the rivalry that they've got with City from the last couple of seasons, if they know that Haaland's not playing, they'll be rubbing their hands. I think we will as Arsenal fans as well, because it's a game with us having the guaranteed points and them just having the game in hand, which isn't the guaranteed points as we found out last season. It could be a really crucial part of the season. But when I saw that news, I wasn't convinced. I thought it was a tactical thing. But like you say, if it's not friendlies, then I don't know. So I was thinking a little different.
He doesn't strike me as someone that wouldn't want to play for his country.
No, he's from when I've seen him talking, and when he's played for his interviews are just he's absolutely batshit. I actually really like him. I do actually. Yeah. I hate him for other teams facing him, but I watch him with his interviews. So with Thierry Henry the other day, and he had a little bit of banter about him. Said to Thierry that if you'll know what it's like to score loads of goals, and it was a little bit of banter there, and he just says it how it is. I find it quite funny. I do like him from seeing him in interviews, and you can tell he just loves to play football. He wants to improve. He wants to get better, and he's just an absolute machine. But it does, like you say, he is very proud of his country, like you're talking about, like the foods that he likes, and his country food and stuff like that. I think I would have got the same, when he was talking about his country. But I don't know. Like I say, when I saw the news, the first thing I thought is, that's tactical because they've got the big game in Liverpool, because obviously they are 8 points behind as it is. But yeah, I think I was just a little bit skeptical, really. But that would be a massive loss to them if it is genuine.
Only human to think that Pep might be up to some old tricks.
Yeah, I think he's losing the plot. I'm a little bit worried about Pep, if I'm honest with you. With some of the things he's saying just recently, he started off with the Gerrard slip. Ever since the news come out about them being, having points deducted and being investigated and these charges, he's been saying some really strange, wild things. I know he loses his head a lot, but he has completely lost his head over the last couple of months. I don't know if you've been seeing like the things that he's been saying, but it's strange. It's like it's really weird. Like the things that he's saying have got like no relevance to anything at all. I'm worried he might be having some kind of like breakdown. To be honest, he's not. Yeah, it's a bit strange at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, he's always been a bit cuckoo, though, hasn't he? Do you think some of the things he just says some things in his in his press conference. I think, what are you fucking going on about? Right.
Just recently, it's been really really peculiar though. Like I'm watching him, and he's like, he looks like he's joking, and then he's being dead serious, and then he's talking about something happened like years ago with an actress, and it's like, you okay? It just doesn't seem
the Julia Roberts thing.
Yeah. It's just like, weird, well, what relevance has that got? He's I don't know. He's just said some really questionable things recently. It makes me think maybe the pressure is getting to him, and he's starting to fold a little bit because I mean, he's not used to having competition, is he? Really, if we're being honest, not in the league anyway. They just usually run away with it. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
true. Maybe it's a little bit of pressure. Maybe he feels under pressure to win the Champions League as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I think he's always said odd and quirky things anyway for me. But yeah, you are right. It's just a little bit more.
It's just a bit questionable, really.
Yeah, it's a little bit more. I can't think of the word now, but consistent, isn't it? It's happening more and
Yeah,
more. Yeah,
it
yeah.
seems
Oh,
to. He says one strange thing, and then you think, okay, that's weird, and you just brush it off. And then, like
mm,
within a few days, he said something else, and it's like he seems to outdo himself every week, and it's like I don't know. It just doesn't make sense for half the things that he's talking about. I can't even. Obviously, he started off with the Gerrard slip, and then he apologised for it. Yeah, so he said about that, and then like the Julia Roberts thing, and like even Lauren sent me that, and I was like, that. What? I mean, obviously, he's talking
yeah.
about uh,
I could
somebody going to watch Manchester United, and it's like, well, man, do you
in the
want? And
in the nineties, wasn't it? I think.
I
So
don't
was it?
even know. I don't even
I
know
mean,
something about her going there to watch United when City were playing the best football, and that she's an idol of his, and it's like I don't honestly, he's just baffling me at the moment. I think I don't know. I'm a little bit a little bit worried he might be having some kind of like
well,
you know
if he
like
is,
some
he
kind
is,
of
isn't he?
crisis.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, if that's what we've done to him, then well done, Arsenal. That's what I'll say.
I think a lot of people, if we win this league, are going to be in exactly the same place. I think Spurs fans, Jamie, to be fair, there'll be a third party with Jamie O'Hara because you won't see him again. He'll probably on some kind of rocket to Mars after it.
Yeah, and I'll happily press the launch button on that as well. Bloke gets on my bloody nerves.
Yeah, I
And
don't like him.
he's a big reason that they melt down so much their fan base because he talks them up like
Mm,
they're prime Real Madrid Spurs, and then they don't ever achieve or do anything.
nah,
No, he's
and
their
they won't.
biggest cheerleader, isn't he? You know,
Yeah,
on the radio and whatever. And yeah, what a poor voice to have for your club. Him sprouting
mm.
bollocks all the time. Well, there we go. Well, that was me done, mate. I don't know if you've got anything you wanna add in.
No,
We
no.
got through all the. Oh no, we're not done. There's like one last thing. Saka and Saliba. And I've been reading this week that the contracts are basically done behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Um, it's a sigh of relief.
it's really good business as well, and I think this is where the club deserve the credit because in recent seasons it's been they've run down the contracts and we let them go cheap because we haven't done enough. And I think I do come out a couple of times and said, I think it's when full ownership happened and said, um, I think we'd lost somebody on a free. I can't remember who it was. So we were nearly losing them on a free, and he come out and he said, um, no player's going to run down into the last 2 years. They either sign or they get sold. And it was
Mm,
a bit of a brave statement, really. And I know with some of the players, they've gone past that, but we've also got in a lot of the contracts, as far as I'm aware, especially like the new players, that they've got that option to extend, and that's what they did. They triggered the year on Saka, they triggered the year on Saliba. I don't think they triggered it on Martinelli because he'd already agreed to sign, hadn't he? So they hadn't done that, and I
yeah,
think they've done it with Xhaka. So it's really good business to do it because it's like, okay, there's no pressure for a club to come in to turn the head of the player, and then okay, we've got to accept like 10 million for a 30 million player. So they've learned from the mistakes, and I think it's sustainable, isn't it? But I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was going to buy a signed Saka shirt uh, about 2 months ago, and I didn't buy it, and they're really hard to get hold of anyway. And I didn't buy it because he hadn't signed, and I was starting to think, is he going to sign? Because there was talk of City, there was talk of Liverpool, there was talk of at the time, clubs that are and have been better than us in recent seasons, and I started to think, why wouldn't he? He's absolutely brilliant, and if we're not going to achieve what he wants to achieve, which is fully capable of, which is obviously Premier League and Champions League, then for me, if he'd have left, I couldn't have been angry at him because I absolutely love him. If he'd have left to go and achieve something that we can't give to him, then fair enough. But obviously, this season we're flying. He's in double figures for goals and assists. Everybody's raving on about Rashford, but actually, let's stop and talk about Saka because he's been doing this for a few seasons now. He's been top of his game. And the fact that we're tying him down, there's also talk of Odegaard being offered a new contract to 2030. I think it ties up in it. For once, I'm actually seeing the club do what they said they're going to do. It's not just words; they're actually delivering what they're saying. What Edu said, what Josh has said, even what Stan said, they're actually doing it. And Arteta, he's as blunt as he needs to be about everything. And I like the way that the club's doing that, and the fans are involved, and things are starting to look bright. But and with Saliba as well, because there was doubt over him. I know he went to where did he go? Was it Marseille?
Yeah.
And he really enjoyed it there, and obviously he wanted to play in that match, and he was told, "No, you've got to come back." And I think it goes back to what Saka said recently: is that until you've put on that shirt and played for that team in front of those fans, you don't know what it's like to be part of that. Once a gunner, always a gunner, and I think he's back as is an Arsenal lad. I think as long as we continue to achieve and progress and stay, at the level that we've been at, at our best, I think he will stay. For his whole career, Ramsdale said that he wants to stay. He wants to be the best for us, as long as he can. And I think Saliba's come in as a player that, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think he was going to stay because of, things that have been said. As particularly because he enjoyed his time with Marseille and obviously being, a French player. But if you watch him celebrate and if you watch his attitude, he celebrates harder than some of the people that have scored the goals. You look at Reece when he scored his goal and look at what Saliba did. And it's like Odegaard said, he's home. I think Saliba's home. I don't worry about big gap. I actually don't worry about any of these players leaving. I don't worry. I think if any of them were offered a contract, I think they'd sign it. I think they're happy. I think they're playing well. They're overachieving from what we should have done from the season. But I think it's brilliant business from the club, and actually it's nice. I don't know if you feel the same, but it's nice as a fan to not worry about teams like City and United, regardless of how much money they're going to run into if this ownership thing happens. I don't worry about players leaving because I think they're happy. I think they're happy, and that's why they play. It's not like with United and you just chuck loads of money at them. It's actually because they want to play for this club and they're happy here.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Totally. I think with anyone now in the squad, they're all on decent contracts. So, listen, players leave football clubs and life goes on. I can remember the day Henry left Arsenal. I was gutted, absolutely devastated, and I'd be the same if Saka or Martinelli or anyone else left the club tomorrow. But one thing I can guarantee you is if they leave, they're leaving for a lot of money.
Yeah,
and that gets reinvested in the team. So. Look, like I said, life goes on. If one of them was to go in the summer, and I do actually think there'll be one or two shock departures in the summer for Arsenal because they'll want to make room for new signings.
Yeah,
and improve the squad, or maybe not shock signings, but you won't see Lokonga back, Maitland-Niles, people like that. They're all not going to be at the club next year.
No,
Tierney probably maybe the highest profile departure, but then I don't see the benefit in selling him. But if Newcastle want to pay 40 million.
I've got a feeling, and it's just a feeling that Xhaka said that he wouldn't leave until he achieved something special with this club. And
Mm.
I've got a feeling, obviously, they've triggered that extension for him for the extra year. I've got a feeling if we win the league and we're going in for Declan Rice and we actually do get him, I think Xhaka will leave
Yeah.
because we need to get somebody else partnered up with Party to have that, that partnership, the same partnership across Shaka's got with Party and have to get that balance right. And I do think if we do win the league, I do think he'll leave. I think he'll go abroad, and I think it'd probably be the right time for him to leave the club rather than before when it was bad. But I wouldn't for me. Obviously, that I think that would be a shock for a lot of the fan base because they've really formed for him. But it would be a really good time because obviously he's been, not that I want him to leave, but I think it'd be a good time for him if that's what he wanted to do. And we'd fetch a good amount for him because of the performances that he's had. So I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. Not that I want it to, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Yeah, I think he's the most likely, apart from Tierney. But I
Yeah,
watched, he did an interview with Sky Sports last week, um, and there's no indication. And they're trying to do a new deal for him, as I know they triggered the extension, but they're actually trying to do a new
yeah.
contract for him as well. I
I
don't think
was
there's any desire from him or the club to part ways yet. To be fair, and I think
no, but I do think a lot of clubs will probably come in for him because he's shown. And I mean, he had admirers, didn't he, before he reached the form that he's in now. So I do think it's an area, isn't it, that a lot of teams look for that that position and with experience as well. So
yeah,
I wouldn't, not that I want him to go. I'd be happy for him to stay. I think he's, like you say, he's. I remember you saying on the last pod that he's made a steal, and obviously he went down injured, didn't he, the other day? And I was thinking, I could hear you say he's made a steal. Um, but he's getting to that to that age now where we as a club in the direction we want to move, we're going to have to get younger players in to gel. And I think if we go for Declan Rice, he's too good, isn't he, to be sat on the bench. And the same with Xhaka, on his form now. He's too good. So if that is an option, you might be looking and thinking, well, he's going to need minutes to stay fit. He's in the form of his life. Is he going to be happy to be a sub? Is he going to be happy to be back up when he's always been like first choice? So I think if push comes to shove, but I wouldn't want to see him go. I just have a feeling that if obviously we went for Casado, didn't we? So we're looking to add to that position. If we do, it's obviously we've got Alan Nenny as well, so it's at a cost to one of those. And yeah, I've just got a feeling. I've just got a feeling if we do it, then I think he'll he's achieved what something special, as he said, and other clubs could come in. But I'm not worried either way. I've just got a feeling. Just reading too much into things, I guess.
yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, like you say, he's probably the most likely to go if anyone goes.
But I'd like them all to stay really because it's they're all options, and even Tierney, I think he's too good to be on the bench, and he came on against Palace. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, he did come
Um,
on and did a good job, didn't he?
but
Actually,
yeah, thought he was brilliant. And, maybe Zinchenko can play in midfield as well, can't he? Maybe there is room for him in the squad alongside. Doesn't have to be either or. It's like with Trossard, he came in and everybody thought he was going to replace Martinelli or be backup or whatever. And actually, they're playing together. So I think everybody's really got an opportunity. Maybe you play like a different role or something. But I don't know. I guess only time will tell.
we do, right? And I'm sure near the time we'll do a transfer pod, and
Yeah,
well, many of them through the summer. We'll have a much clearer idea of what's going on. But I just think it's good news that Saliba and Saka seem to have committed their
yep,
future to the club, and can no longer really call it a project. I think you teams that are challenging for the title aren't in transitional, in the middle of projects, are they? So
No,
they've
no, I
committed
think
their future
we're
to the club,
yeah,
and moving forward, they'll just be part of of something that should be really good for everybody involved: fans, players, staff. It's uh, it's nice to see. You know, like you already said earlier, that too many of our players have walked around free transfers, wanted to get out of the club, couldn't wait to leave.
yeah,
Or we've had to
and
pay
we've
them
been
to leave.
taken advantage of,
Yes,
by other clubs that can offer ridiculous money. And we're seeing it now, Reeve and Percy. They Adebayor, they've just waived money and off they've gone. But actually, we probably won't pay as much as other clubs will have done, particularly for Saka. We probably won't pay him as much as maybe United, Liverpool, City would have paid him. But he's happy. He wants to play for us, and that speaks volumes to so other players around the world. Is that these players like Jesus, Zinchenko, they've won the biggest trophies in English football with City, and they've come to us, and even Gabby said it's completely different. And I think that's, if we can get back to where we need to be in terms of winning this league and getting into the Champions League, we'll attract the real. I mean, to be fair, I still think we could go for Bellingham in the summer if we win the league. And I get to the point now of why not? He's a young English player. We've got young English players. He's all about self development and the next level. So why not? And I know people will laugh at that. I think people won't take it seriously, but I think Arsenal right now are on a completely different level to Liverpool. Liverpool have won everything. We're just building our mentality and our hunger, and we're going to want to go for a lot more with this team. They'll get the taste. They'll get the taste for it, hopefully. And we've got the money as a club, so why can't we get the best players?
yeah, I'll make you right, mate. Make you right. I think we'll call it there, mate. My headphones are about to die, so
All right.
I've got about 5% left.